Hi, my name is Chris Bowles and I'm Director of Operations for High Adventure Treks, and this video is about the series of 9th grade backpacking trips that we have for this fall. The first trip is on October 9th and 10th, and that trip's going to be directed by Sydney and Justin Wright, and we have Justin Wright with us on this video. That's the first Daughters Weekend. The second Daughters Weekend is October 23rd and 24th. That's going to be directed by Camille and Matt Smith that are also with us, and they'll be assisted by Jay Hidalgo. And then that same weekend, we'll have the Son's 9th grade backpacking trip. So again, October 23rd and 24th, and that will be directed by me, and I will be assisted by Zach Curry. As a separate camp out from the daughters, it'll be in the same general location, but a different campsite. So our mission in HATS is growing relationships, communication, and leadership through adventure with our dads. The backpacking trip is always an adventure. We'll be backpacking in 3 miles from Cedar, Bayou, Marina to 5 Mile Camp. Now 5 Mile Camp sounds like we're going to hike 5 miles, but it's from a different location than Cedar, Bayou, Marina. So it's a 3 mile hike in, 3 mile hike back out on Sunday. And we have a lot of exciting things planned for the backpacking trip to help make sure that we meet the HATS mission for that weekend. The theme of the trip is life is a journey. So a backpacking trip is a journey, and sometimes you run into obstacles, sometimes you have to figure out how to navigate around stuff. You've always got to use a map and compass and trail sense to do your trail finding and navigate your way, just like you have to do going through life. So that's the theme of the camp out, and we'll spend some time exploring that over the weekend. I want to talk about a little bit about COVID protocols. So you see that we are wearing face masks. Everybody knows that the Delta variant is continuing to increase in numbers and creating issues with COVID still. So we are still under the overhang of COVID. Fortunately, many people are vaccinated and many people have had COVID, so not sure if the risk is lower or higher. But one thing that we've decided in HATS, and with the advice of our doctors, we think it is smart if people wear their face mask when they're within 6 feet of unrelated people, but we do not have a mask mandate. If you choose not to wear a mask when you're around other people that are not related and you're within 6 feet, please have their permission before you decide not to wear your mask around them. So that's the key thing with COVID protocols. We do ask that if anybody has been exposed to COVID within 2 weeks prior to coming on the camp out, please choose not to come on this one. We will refund your money or we will apply it to your next HATS camp out, and we will be taking temperatures upon arrival to make sure that everybody is healthy when they arrive. And so with that, I am going to turn it over to Matt and Camille.
Thanks, Chris. When does the adventure start? The adventure starts now. Get together as a team, plan your menu, shop, start packing when reasonable. A little bit early for some of those later trips, but it starts now. Get in the mindset and get ready for it. It's going to be a great weekend. So let's talk about the 18-inch rule. Kind of feeds into that. This is an important rule that we have in HATS. We use it as a relationship builder, and it's also a safety rule. Dads, it's hard to grow that relationship if you're not next to your kid, spending time with them, being intentional about that. You need to have your dad or your kids back. Make sure that they're staying safe, and remember that safety is really our personal responsibility. Kids, you need to have your dads back. We all know that dads can get into trouble from time to time. And remember that it's a partnership. So work together with your dad on this trip. So in HATS, we always ask, where does safety start? Safety starts with me. So Camille, what can you tell us about safety for this trip?
One important safety item is that we need to stay hydrated. We need to be carrying our water bottles with us wherever we go, and we need to be drinking at least 2 liters of water a day, if not more, because we are going to be hiking and backpacking. Another safety item is that we need to wear sunscreen. It's important to wear sunscreen even if it's cloudy out, because you will still get sunburned even when it's cloudy. If you have any inhalers or EpiPens or other medicines, make sure that you bring them with you, because obviously we can't provide medicines for you. So we will have a safety mentor team on each of the different trips. They will have they will have been through wilderness first aid, and they'll have a first aid kit, their phone, and they will know what the rescue plan is.
Yeah, and this campout, the rescue plan is a little different. Most campouts, we're close to our vehicles. We can hop in the car and get to the hospital quickly. In this case, we'll be in a remote location. Fortunately, we have the lake, so if we need to get help from a boat, we can. You know, whether it's the ranger or the sheriff's department, they can come out in their boat. Also, we'll be fairly close to some roads. It seems really remote, but it's not quite as remote as it seems. So we'll be close to some roads. The safety officer will know the plan, know where those points are, the best ways to get out of there. So we can definitely count on them for this trip.
If there is a medical emergency, the first aid team will be prepared to handle it. The only thing that trumps the HAT's mission is safety. We're an all-weather camping organization. We do not cancel trips because of the weather. Sometimes the weather is a big part of the adventure. We'll be aware of what the weather is, and we will work to make sure that everyone is prepared for it. The safety team will be checking the weather during the trip and will tell us if there's anything that we need to be aware of. Everyone needs to bring decent rain gear. Ponchos will not cut it for backpacking. Frog togs are inexpensive and do a good job. Another weather-related item is that we need to make sure all of our tents are well staked down so that they don't blow over during the night. Be prepared, not surprised.
Great, thanks,
right.
Camille. So now I'm going to go through the schedule for this weekend. This is one of the few campouts that's a little different than most. We start on Saturday morning, and we won't be able to end right at 11:30 like we do on all the rest of our trips. Because we'll be starting the morning 3 miles away from our vehicles and needing to backpack back, we're going to be a little bit later. So let's go through the schedule. We'll get there at 8 a.m., start arriving at 8 a.m. So between 8 and 9, we'll get together, start getting gear handed out, the crew gear, some of the safety gear. We'll go through backpacking again, and all of our gear, we'll weigh each of our bags. We'll get all that squared away, and then we'll start hiking at 10:30. We'll hit the Cross Timber Trail, as Chris mentioned. We're going to go to 5 Mile Camp, which is 3 miles away, and then we'll get to camp in time for lunch. From 1 to 6, we'll have games. We'll look at water purification. We'll do a day hike. We'll do some other things there in camp. And then at 6 o'clock, we'll light the stoves. In this case, don't bring charcoal, don't bring firewood. It's heavy. You don't really want to carry it. But if you want to, bring a Dutch oven and some charcoal. That'd be great. But it's going to be heavy. But yeah, we'll light the stoves. We do have stoves with hats, so you don't necessarily need to go out and buy a stove, a backpacking stove. And we'll have that ready for dinner. About 7 o'clock, we'll start some more games. We'll do Hats Chat at 8, and we'll have campfire and ghost stories at 9 o'clock. Sunday morning, we'll probably sleep in a little bit. We'll get up at 8 and ease into the morning. We'll circle up at 9, do some more games, breakout session and things. At 10:45, we'll pack up, police the area, and start hiking out. I guess we'll start hiking out about 11:30. We'll probably get back to camp around 1 o'clock. Back to the parking lot about 1 o'clock. And then we can head home from there. Justin?
All right. So this is an excellent opportunity for those that are going to Colorado to get prepared and know what it's going to be like on our 3-day backpack in Colorado. So what I want to talk to you about is clothing and footwear. We want to make sure that we're prepared with the right clothing and prepared with the right footwear. So this is a trip. There will be no sandals, Crocs, or anything like that. You do need to be wearing a hiking boot. It's an extra hiking boot or a hiking shoe. It's an excellent opportunity if you are going to Colorado to begin to break those in. If you're going to have to buy brand new hiking boots, I would suggest that you get something that is resistant, water resistant, is highly recommended. If you're on the trail and your feet get wet, that can cause a problem. So this is an excellent opportunity to begin exploring that. I would not recommend wearing tennis shoes, which they can be worn, but I would not recommend it. So look into some hiking boots, go to your nearest sporting goods store and look at that direction. Layered clothing. Clothing is the other big issue on this. Is everything, as we're going to see here in a minute, we'll start packing a backpack and show you, depending on the size of the backpack, depends on how much you get to bring. So layering clothing and minimizing, at least on this pack, I would definitely recommend bringing one change of clothes that you will take off and put on as the weather gets warmer and cooler. And depending on the conditions, you may even want to look into making sure that you're bringing a jacket as well. The lightweight hiking jackets are going to be the best bet. You don't want to weight yourself down with a heavy goose down jacket or of that nature. But make sure long sleeves, take it off, put it on as you go throughout the day. And remember also rain gear is very, very important on this as well. And it's all got to go into your backpack. So next is kind of food. You ask, what should we bring? Well, we got Saturday, I would recommend probably eating on the way up. So we've got Saturday lunch that's going to be at the campsite, so you're going to need to pack that in. Saturday night dinner, I would highly recommend freeze-dried. We will have multiple stoves out there in order to dehydrate those freeze-dried. You would want to bring that, and then Sunday morning the same thing for breakfast. Again, it's all about weight, so you want to make sure that you're packing as light as possible because those packs will get heavy. And again, it is an opportunity to begin to prepare your mentality for Colorado as we go. You're going to want to make sure that you minimize what you're bringing and get in that kind of mindset. And as I mentioned, mindsets, the best part of this camp out is it is a great adventure. So a positive attitude is what we need to bring. It is real easy when you start getting a heavy backpack on and you're walking, putting many miles on, 3 miles in this case, that you know your attitude starts dragging down on you and you start, oh, this is heavy. So make sure, daughters, you encourage your dads, you encourage your daughters, and make sure that this is a great adventure.
That positive attitude is something that's really important on a backpacking journey, and it's also really important in your life, the journey of life. So great opportunity for a backpacking trip to exercise that positive attitude. So now we're going to go through a demonstration of packing a backpack. And I packed a backpack for the purposes of showing that tonight, and we'll go through some of that stuff. Okay, so this is the gear that I'm going to go through. So, by the way, the gear list for this trip is specific for the backpacking trip. It is not the same gear list that you see in most camp out packets. So it is a pretty good list to use. And if you have any questions when you take a look at the gear list, please feel free to contact me or Justin or Matt, and we can certainly help you understand what you really need to bring. So in my backpack, what I pack in the front pocket is my rain gear. And this is a Frog Tog jacket. I didn't pack it, but I also have Frog Tog pants. And so if it gets rainy, I've got my rain gear accessible right there in that front pocket. Another thing that I have on the outside of my pack is this Redress Pad. And so this is part of what I use for sleeping. It insulates me from the ground. That's really important on backpacking. When you're sleeping, you want to be insulated from the ground. So these trips are going to be in October. The latter trips are going to be in late October. It could be in the 40s, and I've even been on a backpacking trip and it's been in the 30s before. So something to insulate you from the ground is very important. And this Redress Pad does a great job. It's probably not going to give you the most comfortable sleep that you've ever had, but it is fairly comfortable. So Redress Pad is something that I highly recommend. Water bottles. So Camille mentioned that we need to have at least 2 liters of water, and so that's what I've got is water bottles for 2 liters of water. You'll notice these are not Nalgene's. Nalgene's are pretty heavy. So this is Chuck Norris Sea Force water bottles, but the other ones that I use quite often are Smart Water. So you can go and pick up, 2 liters of smart water, or 4 for you and your daughter, you and your son, for a little over $4, and just refill the bottles and use those. They're very lightweight and durable. So I highly recommend these on backpacking trips as your water bottles. So I also had sunscreen in the side pocket. This is a pretty large tube for backpacking. You can find smaller tubes. It's really important to have sunscreen. As Camille mentioned, you want to prevent yourself from getting sunburned. Even when it's cloudy, you're still getting those UV rays. So sunscreen is very important. All right, so in the upper pocket of my backpack, I've got a couple of different things that we'll go through. Toilet paper. Don't leave home without it. We are not going to be providing toilet paper for hats, so make sure that you've got toilet paper for when you need that. And make sure that you keep it in a plastic bag, Ziploc bag, something like that, because if it's raining and toilet paper gets wet, it's a mess. So you want to have some way to protect it from getting wet. Okay, the other stuff that I had in here. So I'm a coffee drinker, and what I bring are Starbucks Vias. And I've got Starbucks Vias here. You can boil water with the Jetboil, and then just fill your cup with the Starbucks Vias, pour the boiling water on top, and you got a cup of coffee. It's very handy to have. In this other bag, I've got my toiletries. So a bottle of ibuprofen on the backpacking trip, that could come in pretty handy. I won't actually carry a large bottle like this. I'll take, probably 4 or 6 of these ibuprofens out and put them in the plastic bag. I have a mostly used tube of toothpaste. And if you take a look at the really intense backpackers, they'll cut the end of their toothbrush off to save 1/4 of an ounce. I actually did it to make it smaller so it would fit in the bag, but toothbrush. And then chapstick. I've got some chapstick here. And Noon tablets. So Noon tablets are electrolyte replacement tablets. You can put one of these in your bottle of water, and if you're perspiring quite a bit, these will help replenish electrolytes in your body. I highly recommend these. You can get these at REI for about $5 a tube. And again, all of that is in a plastic bag to keep it together and keep it dry. Okay, so going into the main section of my backpack. Oh, the other thing that was in that top pocket is a headlamp. So we definitely want to have some source of illumination. Headlamps are fairly lightweight. This is an LED headlamp. Does a great job. This is a black diamond headlamp. It was about $35. The other thing that I've used in the past that's a lot less expensive is a light that will clip to the bill of my cap. And so those are quite usable as well, and very lightweight, which is a great advantage for backpacking. All right, going inside the main part of the pack. Freeze-dried food. And so Justin talked a little bit about food. So for lunch on Saturday when we're backpacking in, you want to have some kind of a lunch, and it can be whatever you want to bring, sandwich, chips, that type of thing. For dinner, what I'm planning on bringing is Mountain House beef stroganoff with noodles. That's my favorite Mountain House meal. And so take a Jetboil stove, boil 1 2/3 cup of water, pour it inside this pouch, seal it, wait about 8 minutes. Maybe halfway through you stir it up with a spoon, and after 8 minutes you've got your dinner right here in the pouch. You just eat it directly out of the pouch. And then for Sunday breakfast, I've got Mountain House again, biscuits and gravy, and that's my favorite breakfast. But freeze-dried food of some sort is what you really want for Saturday dinner and Sunday breakfast. And then we'll be hiking out back in the parking lot by 1 o'clock. Typically what people do is eat their lunch on the way home. All right, so Jetboil. So you've heard us talk about camping stoves, and you've heard me talk about Jetboil. This is a Jetboil stove that's used for boiling water. It does a great job, boils it very quickly. And we have, I'm guessing that many of the people that are on the backpacking trip will have Jetboils. If you don't own a Jetboil, there's no need for you to go out and buy one because you know, somebody's going to have one and you'll be able to use it to boil your water. But basically, it's got this protective cover for the bottom, protective cover for the top. It's got the burner mechanism right here. It's got a stand that I rarely use, and actually a fuel canister that's inside the Jetboil. Screw the fuel canister onto the burner, and then the container that holds the water sits on top of that. So you put the water in there, you ignite it, and you can boil, you know, 2 cups of water in about a minute. So it's a handy little device. But again, no need to go out and buy one specifically for this camp out if you don't already own one. There will be plenty of Jetboils on the trip. Okay, couple of ideas for cups. So you'll need to have a cup for whatever you're going to drink. So this is just a very inexpensive Stanley plastic cup, you know, maybe 99 cents at Walmart. And then this is something that's pretty interesting. This is also fairly inexpensive, a couple of dollars on Amazon. And so this is a pretty nice backpacking cup. It really collapses down to small size, but pushes out into a cup. And so I like that one pretty well also. Ground cloth for my tent. And that's just a plastic ground cloth that I cut off of a sheet of plastic that matches the footprint of my tent. So that's an inexpensive way to get a ground cloth. Something that I have here is a sleeping bag liner. And so I have a 35-degree sleeping bag. If it's going to be a little bit colder than 35 degrees, say 30 degrees or in the upper 20s, then I'll also bring the sleeping bag liner and put that inside my sleeping bag, and this adds, you know, 5 to 8 degrees of warmth to my sleeping bag. All right, so a couple of options for a camp chair. You're going to want something for a camp chair. Now, I'll be honest with you, the first time that I did the 9th grade backpacking trip with my older daughter, we brought our normal camp chairs. We strapped them to the bottom of our packs and we walked them in, and everybody laughed at us until we got to camp. And we were comfortable in our camp chairs, and nobody was laughing at us after that. But they were a little bit unwieldy. So this is another option right here. It's an REI FlexLite camp chair. You guys have probably seen these. They fold out into nice little chairs that are quite comfortable that you can use in camp. This is what I carry with me now. Between the normal camp chair and the REI FlexLite, I was using a Crazy Creek. And so Crazy Creek's kind of like a stadium seat. It's got these straps that hold the bottom to the top, and you basically just sit in it and lean back against it, and it's a fairly comfortable seat, either on the ground or you can sit this on a log and lean back on it. Crazy Creek is also a good option. But I would have something for sitting on while you're in camp. You can get, you know, may not be the name brand Crazy Creek, but you can get something like this on Amazon for maybe $20 or $22. So highly recommend a Crazy Creek type solution or an REI FlexLite chair. This, I think, is normally $70 on sale. Sometimes you can get them for around $50. All right, moving on. So I showed you my Thermarest pad. Now I'm getting to the age where the Thermarest pad alone is not very comfortable and I don't sleep very well. So what I actually do, I have a Climate air mattress that is fairly lightweight, backpacking air mattress. I'll blow that up and then I roll out my Redress Pad and lay that on top of the Climate. That's pretty comfortable, and it's also pretty warm when it's colder. So this is a dual solution that I use. Climate air mattress is on the order of $35 to $40 on Amazon. Redress Pad is probably about $25 on Amazon. And this is my tent. So two-person backpacking tent. You know, we have had people that have brought in four-person tents before on this 3-mile hike. You know, tents that have weighed 8, 9, 10 pounds. That ends up being a beating after a couple of miles. This is a fairly lightweight North Face Storm Break tent, suitable for backpacking, and it weighs probably 2.5 pounds, something like that, so it's fairly lightweight. And I showed you the ground cloth that goes with this that's cut to the footprint of the tent. This tent has inside it the poles, the fly, the tent body itself, and it has the aluminum stakes that came with it that are fairly lightweight and suitable for backpacking. Okay, so what we're getting to now are my clothes and sleeping bag. And so I keep the clothes in the sleeping bag in a dry bag. Now, garbage bags work just as well. You can use a heavy-duty contractor garbage bag, and that'll do a pretty good job of keeping your clothes in your sleeping bag dry. So you would just put the clothes in the sleeping bag inside the garbage bag and then put that inside your pack. That way it doesn't matter how much it rains, how much water there is, your clothes in your sleeping bag stay dry. That's very, very important for backpacking. Because once your stuff is wet, it's hard to get it dry when you're on the trip. So you need some kind of a solution to keep your clothes in your sleeping bag dry. Okay, so let me just show you what I've got in here. So sleeping bag, 35-degree sleeping bag, and it's in a compression sack. I didn't do the compression, but these straps will cause it to compress down, take up less room inside the backpack and inside the dry bag. So that's handy if you have a sleeping bag with a compression sack. So again, the 35-degree sleeping bag, and if it's a little bit colder than that, that liner really helps make it comfortable. All right, so when I arrive at the backpacking campout, you know, I'm probably going to be wearing shorts and maybe a long sleeve shirt. So I'm going to bring a pair of pants that are long pants so that if it gets colder, I've got, you know, long pants that I can wear. And these are synthetic zip-off pants, so I can zip off the legs and, you know, they'll be shorts if I want to do that. But the key thing is synthetic, so if they get wet, they're still going to provide some insulative ability and help keep me warm. I've got a Tech Dry long sleeve shirt, and so this Tech Dry, you know, I'll probably be wearing a Hats t-shirt when I get there. This Tech Dry long sleeve shirt can be worn over or under a Hats t-shirt and be an extra layer that's fairly warm, and again, if it gets wet, it still provides pretty good insulation. And that's the key thing about synthetic cloths versus cotton. Cotton does not do a good job of keeping you warm when it's wet. I've got synthetic socks, an extra pair of synthetic socks. I have an extra Hats t-shirt, and this is a 50% polyester, 50% cotton blend. It does okay with as a layer even when it's damp. Okay, I've got a fleece, and so that's what I wear in the evening. That'll help keep me warm. That goes on top of my Tech Dry shirt and Hats t-shirt. Now, if the weather report looks like it's going to be, you know, something down in the 30s, then I'll also bring my down puffy jacket, and that'll provide yet another layer of warmth. If it looks like it's going to be, you know, nothing less than the 50s, then I'll consider leaving this home. It doesn't weigh that much, it's a little bit bulky, but it's very, very warm. And so if it's colder, then I am going to have this jacket as well. Finally, I have a stocking cap, and I have a buff, which I can wear around my neck and keep my neck warm when I'm wearing the jacket or the fleece. And I've got a pair of lightweight gloves. So these layers will keep me in pretty good shape down to, you know, roughly freezing, you know, 32 degrees. I'll still be pretty comfortable. So that's an idea of the clothing and the layers that you can use. And again, very important that you have some way that you keep those clothes and your sleeping bag dry if it's raining. And so backpacks. So I know that some of you have backpacks and some of you don't. So Hats has 11 backpacks available for use. There's no rental fee. You know, we just loan them out, first come, first served basis. The directors are going to manage, you know, who has the backpacks for each trip. We may, you know, on the second weekend where we have both the daughters and the sons going out, may have trouble finding enough backpacks to go around to all the people that need them. So if you need a backpack, please also check around with friends that you know that have camping gear. REI used to rent out camping gear, and then they stopped doing that. Then they started doing that again, then they stopped doing that. I called them and talked to them tonight that they no longer rent out camping gear. There is a place that does it over the internet, outdoorsgeek.com. They rent gear and will ship it anywhere in the U.S. Looks like high quality gear, North Face, Osprey, and so on. It's $40 for a tent, and each backpack is $35. So for about $110 plus shipping, probably both ways, you could have gear for the trip. So Hats also has one tent, one two-man backpacking tent that's available to loan out. And then I personally have two backpacking tents that I'm willing to loan out. So for those of you that need a tent, we've got a couple of options there. Okay. In the gear list, one thing I want to point out says to bring a swimsuit, a small towel, and water shoes. So we have in the past done a hike in the afternoon, on Saturday afternoon, over to a different part of Lake Texoma, and have done a swim in Lake Texoma. But the last couple of years it's been chillier. We've been doing this backpacking trip later in the year, and so it really hadn't been a suitable time to get in the water. So we're probably not going to do that, and I wouldn't recommend carrying that extra gear. So you can cross those items off of the list. So final things. Justin talked about hiking boots. This is a pair of Salomon hiking boots that they're Gore-Tex and got nice soles that have good grip. These did not break in my feet when they were brand new. They were comfortable from day one. So Salomon hiking boots, I do recommend those if you're looking for something comfortable. Trail runners are also okay. As Justin said, it is not a great idea to go hiking in tennis shoes because the trail is going to be rough in certain locations. You can certainly bring tennis shoes to wear in camp. Anytime during the backpacking trip, we don't want to be in sandals, we don't want to be in flip-flops, don't want to be in bare feet, because that's how people can get injured. So these are the hiking boots that I use and that I really like. I'll probably carry tennis shoes with me, wear these, and carry tennis shoes for when I'm in camp. All right, speaking of getting the age where sleeping's not comfortable, I'm also getting the age where my balance isn't as good as it used to be. I carry hiking sticks, and they're not totally necessary for the terrain that we're going to be on. For me, they are necessary on Colorado Trek when we're doing the peak ascents because the footing can be treacherous at times. So hiking poles are a good idea. These are about $35 for a set at Walmart. They're fairly inexpensive poles, but they've been on many Colorado treks and have done a great job. Okay, so this is not something that everybody needs to worry about, but it's something I do want to talk about. This is a Platypus gravity water filtration system. So when we hike out, we will each have 2 liters of water. And so that's obviously not enough to get us through the weekend. So what we'll be doing during the backpacking trip is pulling water out of Lake Texoma in collapsible buckets and letting the silt settle out of the water, pouring that water into the dirty side of the Platypus water filter, filtering it through, and then that's what we'll be drinking and using for cooking. And you may think, oh my gosh, Lake Texoma water, that's terrible. It's going to taste terrible, it's going to be terrible. It's really not. After it filters through this Platypus system, that does a great job of taking everything out of the water. It is clear water and it tastes just fine. And I probably personally drank 100 gallons of Lake Texoma water filtered through a Platypus system and lived to tell about it. So that's what we'll do for our water supply. And I think the only other thing I would say to bring, it's a good idea to have some snacks with you when you're on the trail and when you're in camp. You know, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We're going to be exerting ourselves, so a little bit of extra calories, a few extra snacks will be good to have with you while we're on the backpacking trip. Anything to add, you guys? All right.
All right, next we want to talk to you about directions how to get to Cedar Bayou Marina at Lake Texoma. From where we sit right here, we're looking at 79 miles from Richardson from the HATS office. The directions would be go up 635 to the Dallas North Tollway or 75, either way. But the preferred directions would be the Dallas North Tollway up through Frisco to 380. You will then go west on 380 and catch 377 north. That will take you all the way to Cedar Bayou Marina. Once you hit Whitesboro at Highway 82, so another option you could go up is 75 to Highway, go west on 82, and at Whitesboro you would hit 377. Once you get to Whitesboro and you take the 377 north, you're looking at approximately 14 miles that you'll be going north on 377. And at about mile 14, you will see the Cedar Bayou Marina on the left-hand side is where you'll be exiting, going to the west.
And that's also where you pick up the first HATS sign.
And you will start picking up the HATS signs at that point as well. If you do so happen to go across the bridge and start seeing Lake Texoma on your right and your left, you've gone too far and you're now in Oklahoma. You'll need to turn back around at the nearest safest exit and come back down. But Cedar Bayou Marina will be right there before you go over the bridge to Lake Texoma. You'll pick up the signs, and it is a very nice scenic drive either way that you go. Love that part of the country up through Pilot Point and Whitesboro.
And so options for breakfast. In Whitesboro there were some McDonald's and a couple of other fast food opportunities. So those are potential options for breakfast on your way up.
And I'll tell you right there at Whitesboro, there is a chance for an Allsup's world famous burrito as well. Your last one right there for all that's been from out in West Texas. Last but not least, we want to go over our non-negotiables. Our non-negotiables are not rules intended to keep us from having fun, but they are our guidelines to help us deliver a successful HATS mission. And that is what that's what the non-negotiables are coordinated around. And for us to have a successful HATS mission, we do believe wholeheartedly that these non-negotiables are not negotiable at all. So the first one, 18-inch rule. 18-inch rule is going to be very important on this trip for not only safety, but also growing that relationship. So dads and daughters, if the daughter's at the front of the trail and the dad's at the back, you do not have that opportunity to work on that relationship. So excellent opportunity, 3 miles. It's going to take us a few hours to get to the actual location. So an excellent opportunity to spend that time with one another on the trail. Same in the campsite. 18-inch rule is by far one of the best non-negotiables that I know of. No alcohol, that is a given. This is not a place nor a trip for alcohol. It is a hindrance between that relationship between our father and daughter. It impairs that opportunity to bond. Another one is no electronics. We will have our safety officers that will have an electronic in order to watch for the weather and emergency use, but there is no place for electronics on this trip as well. No pets. Great opportunity if you want to hike with your pet on another time, but not this weekend. We will not be bringing any pets. No firearms. There will be no need for any type of firearms as well on this trip. They are a hindrance and a safety concern. This trip, along with any other, is no leaving early is an absolute non-negotiable on this. If you cannot make it through the Sunday morning activities, we may need to look at planning something else or another weekend. Absolutely no leaving early on this trip.
Yeah, we really don't want, dad, daughter, dad, son team trying to hike out on their own. So that's not a good option on this trip. So if there's some sort of conflict, then, this is probably not the trip to try to leave early.
Correct.
Just for safety reasons.
And if we do have any unplanned emergency issue, we will have a plan in place to evacuate if needed. If something does arise that has an unplanned leaving, we will deal with it at that time. And last but not least is our do not pack up early. And this trip's going to be a 1 day in, 1 day out. We're going to have activities that go through it. We'll all be packing up and we'll all be leaving at the same time. So there is no need to pack up and leave early on this trip either. Anything that I missed?
I don't think so. I think you got it all.
All right. So last but not least, what do we need to bring? A great attitude.
Yeah. All right. We're looking forward to camping with you on one of the 9th grade backpacking trips. We'll see you soon.